Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Rimshots with Sean. I have another guest. I tell you, my friend Raquel just keeps bringing these amazing guests from the West Coast. You're on the West Coast, correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
I have Mr. Mark Zavon from and probably one of the coolest band names I've heard in a while, Kill Devil Hill. Where okay,
Thanks.
where did that come up with? Where did you guys come up with that?
Well, actually, the name came from I was in a aviation class, and they were talking about the birth of flight and where the Wright brothers had flown the first plane, and it was at a place called Kill Devil Hills in North Carolina. And I thought to myself, well, that's a pretty cool name. Maybe I'll throw that in the hat, and then maybe one day it'll get used. And then so it did come up with this band that we had a bunch of names we were going over, and that one kind of was starting to stick. So we started digging in to find out what it really meant. And it turns out that it's got like more of a history with pirates and rum and stuff like that than with the Wright brothers. Back in the, I guess it was 1700s, they used to make rum out of sugarcane down there in Jamaica and all those Caribbean islands. And then they'd run it up the coast and sell it, basically. But those waters right off the coast of North Carolina were pretty kind of treacherous waters, and so there were a couple of times when maybe a ship got wrecked. There were a few stories, and none of them are necessarily known to be true for sure. But there's one story that a galleon was wrecked on the rocks, and that the barrels of rum washed up on the shore. There's another story that they used to hide their barrels of rum in the sand dunes on the shore from the British Crown. But the pirates used to call their rum Kill Devil because it was strong enough to kill the devil. That's how it got its name.
Love it.
So yeah, it's kind of a long history with pirates and booze. So interesting.
Couple cool because I mean where I live, I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and there's a huge history. Our a huge part of our history is actually has that the background with pirates and different sorts of things, and so to hear that folklore and hear that story being told is really cool because it's not just a hey, it's just trying to come up with a cool name. I mean, it's got a meaning, it's got a background, almost lends itself to a very concepty type thing if you ever wanted to go that way.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of rock and roll pirates a little bit, especially Dewey and I, so we kind of lean toward that on this new record. Honestly, there's a bunch of stuff that has that sort of a theme going on, but there's also a lot of stuff on the record that's got kind of current themes as well. So I mean, it's interesting. We even had a guy do some renderings of us as pirates, for the artwork for the record. So that's going to be interesting. I'm really excited.
Very cool. So before we get into the record, just give us a little intro to the people that are part of your band.
Oh, okay. So Dewey Bragg is our vocalist. He's sang for Pissing Razors for a minute, and obviously, on our first two records. And I'm on guitar, Johnny Kelly on drums, and Matt Snell, who is the original bass player from Five Finger Death Punch. So we were lucky to have him kind of get on board with us and get going with us. He's been a big asset. He's a really great guy, and really he's a hell of a bass player. He's just a monster on the bass.
Would
So
you find getting somebody in such as him that's kind of has a because I talk a lot about networks, and obviously he would have a network. Do you find his network might be helping you, or are you guys just trying to forge it on your own and maybe not tap into that?
oh, certainly his network's helping. I mean, we're trying to all four of us network with all of our connections. It's kind of a strange new world with regard to music and things like that. It winds up being a lot more DIY than it used to be.
Right.
Labels used to take care of all kinds of stuff, and now you're kind of left to your own devices with regard to crossing T's and dotting I's and making sure that everything gets done. So, having a couple extra phone numbers to call, or a couple extra irons in the fire always helps.
It's interesting that you say that because there was a thread on my with my group yesterday about that very situation where people feel that a lot of venues don't promote as much. It's left up to the band. It's a different way of doing things. How much of that? Okay, so who handles that with you guys, and how active are you in doing that? I've been seeing some socials today about you guys. Tunes sound great, by the way.
Thank you.
But who handles that?
It's mostly me, but recently we've gotten Raquel on board, so she's helping us out, and We've got a couple other people that are coming on board, especially with the release coming up here in September. So you kind of trying to, get everybody all pointed in the same direction and make a big push here, right before the release, obviously.
So date of the release and the name of that record when it's coming out.
It's going to be September 20th. And I think we might have a pre-release with iTunes on the 18th, that Monday, but the release date is the 20th. And what was that? What else did you ask?
Name of the album.
Oh, it's going to be called Seas of Oblivion. Yeah. So we actually, it's one of the songs on the record, and we were going through trying to pick a name for it, and that really suited the artwork that we had as well. So it's perfect.
So I know what I heard, and oftentimes especially when Raquel sends me something, I like to listen to it before I read the presser, just because I kind of want to see if I can pick out influences on my own. And one of the things that I'm starting to find is that I'm not as savvy as I think I am, because I'll listen to it and I'll hear certain things that I think the band is influenced by, but then I read the presser and it's like, I didn't get that at all. If I'm playing this, or I'm describing your band for my viewers before they hear your material, what are they going to expect?
Well, it's hard rock and metal kind of mixed together, and we've got some classic elements, we've got some modern elements. But we're old school guys at the end of the day, grew up on a lot of the old school metal stuff. So that's where our influence comes from for sure. But we've been branching out a little bit. I think when we started on the first record, we were sort of focused in one kind of a more focused direction, than we are now. I think now we've branched out, and there are some things on this record that are perhaps, I don't know, stylistically taking some more chances. And it's interesting, it keeps it interesting for us to kind of write stuff that's not necessarily all trying to be the same thing.
Sure. And I mean, I guess one of the things, so in terms of how you started it, how you wrote it, how you produced it, how you recorded it, just give us a quick little walkthrough of that, because you mentioned the whole DIY thing, but there's still different sort of throwback elements that take place. So what was your process when you're putting this together?
Well, it started kind of a long time ago. I mean, back when Rex was in the band, we actually went into the studio and recorded a handful of tracks, just, getting started on what we thought would be the next record. And then, we got sidetracked, and Rex decided he was going to do a solo record. And, that all just kind of went to the side for a while. And then when we picked up the pieces, during that time while he was doing that, and we were basically under the impression we were going to do another record, we were writing songs, demoing stuff. Dewey would come over to my house, and we, demo stuff at my house. And so we stacked up a good chunk of songs, a good chunk of stuff. And then it got to the point where, Rex decided he was going to go his own way, and we got mad in the band, and we just started putting things together from there. But even the recording process of the record took a really long time. I mean, the drums were recorded, I think, at the end of 2020, and since then, we recorded guitars. I did the guitars at my place. Matt did the bass at his place. And, we just were waiting for people's schedules to line up, so that we could actually play and support the record when it came out. And also our producer, Chris Collier, who does Korn, he got basically pretty busy for a while. And so, that was another thing that kind of, took a little bit longer, but I don't think it didn't feel like a race to me. It was more like, let's just get it done and make sure that we're happy with it when it comes out. So
Fair
I
enough.
think that,
We're going to
go
take a
ahead.
little break, Mark. We're going to pay some bills here, and we're going to come back with another new friend of mine, Mark Zavon, and we're after this. Boom. Well, welcome back to Rimshots with Sean. I'm here with Mark Zavon. Kill Devil. Is it Kill Devil Hills?
Kill Devil Hill.
I love that name. I think it's there's so many names that are dumb. Let's call it is, right? She said, Raquel sent it to me. I'm like, that's a cool name. So, and I get a visual. It sounds heavy. It sounds cool. It sounds all kinds of different. It lends itself to, you were talking about pirates and stuff earlier. Artwork. It's a great name. Back to the recording of the album. So you said that this took a while. Safe to say that some of this was put together when everything was shut down?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the songs were written during that time, and some of the stuff deals with some of the issues that arose during that time too. So I don't want to get it too into specifics, but certainly having all that time and dealing with all of what we were all dealing with during that time really kind of inspired some of the lyrics and some of the content of those songs.
So obviously, I mean, we're talking a year and a half ago now that all kind of went away, and 3 years when it started. But I don't know about you, but when I think back about that, it's kind of like you get this feeling in the pit of your stomach where it was just lonely and desolate, and it wasn't fun. But one of the things in this podcast actually came out of that time, because it was just like, okay, I need to sit around and mope or do something productive. Did you guys use that time to maybe bone up on, technical stuff and writing and things like that?
Certainly, yeah. We were writing during that whole time, and some of that stuff, even the title track, Seas of Oblivion. I mean, that's basically, it's kind of like a soundtrack to what was going on back then. It's like you just lost and looking for some kind of a port in a storm, because it just seems so desolate. Everything just seems so desolate during that time. So there was a lot of that went into it. And yeah, we definitely spent some time doing that, but we also did a lot of other stuff during that time too, because we kind of had our hands tied. There was no way to really go out and play or do a lot of that stuff that we used to do. So we kind of stayed busy, tracking stuff. We did some covers. We recorded some cover songs and some other stuff that'll probably come out later. But yeah, we just staying busy, writing and recording.
Well, I mean, it was important. I knew an awful lot of people that didn't do that. And when everything opened back up, they were like, oh, well, it's no fair. And it's like, yeah, but the people that actually, didn't feel sorry for themselves and did some things were, I would say, miles ahead of the other people that didn't do that.
Right. That makes
Right.
sense.
It does.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, everything opens up. Have you guys been out playing this material, and have you played it for live for anybody yet? Or are you just kind of keeping it close to your chest right now?
I think we did, let's see, a handful of shows where we played, I think, one of the new songs, but we've got some shows coming up in September, and we're planning to play at least three, maybe four of the new songs in the set. So looking forward to that, definitely, because they're fun to play. They're a really good time to play. And so in fact, I was just over at Dewey's house just the other day. We kind of ran through the stuff a little bit just to kind of see how it would feel. There's one of them we hadn't even, it's basically a lot of harmony vocals that we sing basically all the way through the song together. And we'd never done it. You record all this stuff. It's funny because you do everything separately, and then comes time to play the song and you're like, oh my God, I've never actually done this. I've
Yeah.
never played this guitar part, sang this part with him at the same time in the same room ever. So it's a challenge, but it's fun. I mean, that's the joy of it to me, is getting to the finish line, getting to the end of the song and being like, all right, we nailed that. It's going to be killer.
Well, and people don't understand the cycle of getting an album out. Like it's like they see it, and to them it's, oh, that only took a couple weeks, but it could be, as much as 4 years of Def Leppard's doing something, maybe, to 3 4 weeks. But the cycle of an album, people don't understand how, there's a lot of emotion that's involved in that. The highs, the lows, you love it, you hate it, you've listened to it too much, you haven't listened to it enough. Talk about that a little bit, and if you guys went through it.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. I'm not one to listen to my own stuff. I mean, once we're done with it, unless I have to go back and, kind of make sure I'm playing the songs right before we play live or something like that, I don't really drill down on my own stuff too much. It's just hard. I don't know. When you've spent so much time and you've been so close to something like that, I think it's difficult because, people don't hear it in the same light that I do, I guess. I don't know. There's always like this little detail here or this little detail there that my ear always goes to, because that's what I was working on at the time, or that's what it was a bone of contention at the time, where there's all these, inside stories to all that stuff that, I can't listen past. It's hard for me to listen past that stuff. So, a lot of the time I'll just go back to whatever I have to do. Like, and you forget, like, we've recorded some of these songs so long ago now that, I had to go back and relearn some of the guitar parts. I'm like, how did I do that? I have no idea what I was thinking when I played that, but it comes back obviously, and you're like, oh, all right, it's kind of like learning somebody else's stuff. Like, it's
Yeah.
kind of bizarre, but as long as it works, I won't complain.
Well, and that's a real thing, because I've done some tracking myself for some people, and when they send me the finished track back, sometimes I don't listen to it because they might have changed something that they want it different, and so for me, if I'm working on something, I kind of want to remember it as I put it together.
Right.
I might listen to it every now and again, but for the most part, I get what you're saying. It's kind of like on to the next, and I really watch one of my podcasts when it's done. Truth be
Right.
told, I'm around myself enough. I don't need to see myself that much.
Right. It's the same concept. Totally.
Right, right. So you mentioned you're doing some shows in September. Where are they going to take place, Mark?
It's September 21st. We're playing at the Whiskey A Go Go in Hollywood. September 22nd, that Saturday, we're playing at Vamped in Vegas, which I'm stoked about. I love that place. We haven't played there in quite a few years, and I really like that place. And we're playing a new place we haven't played before called Stages on that Saturday. I'm sorry, it's the Friday at Vamped, the 22nd, and then Saturday the 23rd at Stages in, I believe it's Santa Ana. They call it Stages because they've got two stages in there. It's
Oh, well,
supposedly a pretty cool venue. I haven't been there, but a buddy of mine was telling me that they've got two stages and then they set the bands up. So you don't have the changeover that you would have on one stage. You just have everybody all set up and ready to go for the next band. It should be interesting. I'm
very
excited about it.
cool. And what I guess what's the club scene like down in that part of the world right now? I was talking to somebody about some things here in my hometown, and it's borderline embarrassing, I guess, in the fact that there's not a lot of venues for original bands to play. What's the scene like down there?
Well, it's Hollywood. I'm in LA, so there's always, venues for original stuff. It's difficult for a band starting out, I think. You got to sell tickets and stuff like that. It's a pay to play kind of a scenario, but we're pretty established, so we're able to, kind of do our thing, at that level. And we've got good rapport with the Whiskey. I mean, those guys are always great to us, so I can't say, I can't thank them enough for supporting us over the years and looking out for us. And I mean, there are a lot of great venues there. There's the Viper Room, and but they're also, some of them are kind of evaporating. Like the House of Blues, they tore it down to build a hotel. So,
Uh,
and I think to myself, you're going to tear down a hotel, or you're going to tear down a venue on the Sunset Strip so that people can come and visit the Sunset Strip. I mean, eventually you won't have any Sunset Strip left to visit, right? So I don't know. It just kind of doesn't make much sense to me.
well,
But
that it pains me to hear that because I get into that Phil Spector documentary there, and obviously the House of Blues had a huge part in that whole story,
right.
right? So, we're going to take one more break here, Mark, and we're going to come back with my buddy Mark after this. Well, welcome back to Barstool Rimshots of Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk with Mark Zavon from Kill Devil Hills. Um, I've had a couple of friends that I've played with from here that have gone to LA and played at the Whiskey and played at the Viper Room and a couple places like that. And they're guys who we grew up idolizing the Van Halens and the Motley Crues and all those guys. They all say the same thing. They were surprised the room was not as big as what they thought it would be.
Right.
Is that true? But I'm going to guess that allows for a really nicely packed, tight, fun room of a lot of people when it's humming.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely intimate, but it's cool because it's got so much history. Every time we get up on that stage, I think about, wow, Jimi Hendrix was up here. Wow, Eddie Van Halen set his bomb up over here, right on the side of the stage. Randy Rhoads played with Quiet Riot right here, cutting his teeth in the early days. Some of my biggest heroes. And it's like, this is amazing to be standing here on this exact stage where those guys started. And, I don't know, it's just not lost on me, the history, and the pedigree of all that. So it's always, I'm always sort of in awe of it a little bit.
Well, it's great to hear you say that. I lived in Toronto for 7 years, and Toronto has a huge history of, music and different sorts of things. And when you live there, you kind of take things for granted. So, somebody visits from out of town. I want to see this. And you're like, I don't want to. I'm guessing maybe a little bit like that, but for you. But I mean, it's great to hear that you still hold those places in that regard because they are some very special venues, world renowned venues.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that history doesn't go away, man. I mean, that's always going to be a part of, the coming up of rock and roll and all those people that influenced us and all of that stuff. I mean, so I don't know. I hope it stays around for a really long time. When I see them tearing stuff down on the strip, it just makes me sad for future generations that won't get to experience it the way we did, because that stuff was really special. And as long as the Rainbow's there, the Whiskey's there, Roxy, now, as long as that stuff's still there, there's still something to come see. And I hope it'll be there for a good long time.
Yeah, no, it'd be a shame if it went away. So back to the music. Well, I mean, we never really left the music, but in terms of your influences, like you personally and the band, what's your swath? Who were some of those people that I guess carved out your identity or that you learned from?
Oh, well, I mean, my first record was Blizzard of Oz. So, I mean, Randy Rhoads was probably my my number one, but Eddie Van Halen, and then later obviously Zakk Wylde, Dimebag, those guys, and Jerry Cantrell, and I know our singer Dewey is a huge Lane Staley fan. But yeah, and I know all that stuff comes across a little bit, in what we do, but it's hard to say, like, because I love all music. I mean, I'll listen to jazz, I'll listen to country, it doesn't, I'm not really, I don't know, stuck in one genre necessarily. I mean, a little variety goes a long way sometimes, but and then I'll listen back to, I'll put on British Steel, and listen to stuff that I haven't heard in a long time, and it takes me right back to being a kid. So it's just a lot of fun to go back and revisit those influences sometimes.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned Blizzard of Oz because of the opportunity to interview Max Norman. And he
Nice.
brought up something that blew me away. He brought up because I'm a drummer, so he brought up how the whole process of how they recorded the bass and the drums, right down to we use 421s and everything on the drum kit, which was very cool. But one of the things that he said that I was blown away by is they were having a real hard time on some of the songs getting Ozzy to stay in key. So he basically said, I think I was the creator of autotune because they would slow the tape down or speed the tape up to get Ozzy in there because the take itself was good, but maybe a little flat, a little sharp. So instead of having them do it again, they would play around with the tape. I thought that was incredible for 81?
Right. Yeah. That is amazing. I've never
Yeah.
even heard of that before.
Well, neither did I. And I was just like, really? But, and it's so cool to go back and, because some of those influences that you stated, I hear them a little bit. But they're hidden maybe. You guys do a very good job at borrowing without outright stealing or broadcasting it, if you will.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one thing to, just to be influenced by somebody, but and it's another thing to just sort of kind of lift a lick or lift a, riff or a chord progression or something like that. We try not to do that. I mean, we've got so much stuff, truthfully. I mean, there's this record's got 15 tracks on it, and we've still got another probably records worth of stuff we didn't use. Like I said, it was a giant pile of stuff, and we really enjoy writing. So, there's never really a shortage of that. Luckily, we don't have to resort to the, lifting of a riff or something like that.
Well, sure. And I mean, everybody, you hear, stories of Van Halen and their first, I guess, 3 or 4 albums were already written like at the club, and a big
Right.
thing for bands is their first album is usually one of the best ones because they have all the music and then they got to go and write. And when they go and write, maybe they weren't, their writing wasn't as good as what they meant initially thought. And they
Yep.
stumble, and then album 2 is not great, album 3 is terrible, and then they're done. So for you guys to have that stockpile material, probably pretty key for having a good confident feeling for the next recording.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know that we'll use all of it. We honestly, there were some songs that I thought would certainly make this record and they didn't. And so you just never really know. I mean, like I get too far inside of it sometimes too when I'm writing because I don't really know, it's hard for me to tell because you lose your objectivity, but at the end of the day, as long as everybody likes it, if we go into rehearsal and we start playing stuff, it's pretty apparent kind of immediately, what's going to stick, what everybody is into. It's like, oh man, let's play that one again, and that's when it's like, okay, I see where this is going. And then something that maybe I thought was really going to stick, and they're like, nah, I don't know, maybe. So it's good to have somebody you trust their opinion, to bounce something off of like that. And these guys are definitely, those guys to me.
Well, I was
So
going to ask you your process of picking the songs. If you have that much material, is it a democracy? Do you guys all sit around with your producer? Do you bring other people in? How do you go about choosing those songs for the record?
I guess it's pretty much a democracy. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of, there's not really a set in stone way to do it, I guess. Everybody puts their 2 cents in, and then sort of the cream rises to the top. Chris did, our producer, he did have a hand in a lot of that stuff, and he had some great ideas also with regard to, you know, things with the songs, like dynamic things, arrangement things, things that a producer does. He was a really great contributor with regard to that, and so we were really grateful to have him on board with that. But yeah, those guys, if it's not working for everybody, then there's no point in pursuing it, because everybody's got to be firing on all cylinders for something to really work. So we might as well pick the stuff that we all like, at the end of the day.
Makes total sense. So September 20th, this album is out. How can my viewers find out about Kill Devil Hills?
Well, you can go to killdevilhillmusic.com. That's our website. We're also on Instagram. We're on Facebook. And that's Kill Devil Hill Music. You can find us, through that on those socials as well. We have it's Kill Devil Hill Music on YouTube. We've got a bunch of YouTube videos, lyric videos and videos. We've got some more stuff coming out soon. And the record will be distributed through In Grooves. We're with Legend Recordings, Chris Bianchi and Legend Recordings right now. So distribution through In Grooves. So it'll be available on all streaming services. And we will have a vinyl release coming out. So we're working on that right now. Pre-order for that should be coming soon. So looking forward to that as well.
And your socials are up there. I went and looked at all your socials. You guys have some great numbers, which in this day and age is important to a lot of people. So congrats on that. That's amazing. Mark, I want to thank you for doing this, man. It was very nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to hearing this album in its entirety.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on, Sean.
Oh, my pleasure, and go enjoy your day. I'm threatening to get him in the West Coast, man, in March or April, and we'll see what happens. But
hey, look me up, dude. We'll go get dinner at the Bow.
I will for sure.
All right.
Peace.